And probably wrestling the python as well. Planeteers, can you bump the parrot off its perch, declare it dead, and at the funeral dig a bloody great hole of welcome with your hands for Terry Jones!
He's the movement on the organ. We might have even seen him in a morgan. We know deep down in our bones some odd men live in Terry Jones. Says he sees satire and Chaucer. King Richard was a cruel enforcer. Now each and every ancient movie rose when seen by the torch of Terry Jones. The Bride and Buffy Terry Jones. The Bride and Buffy Terry Jones.
We're so excited. Oh.
How's it feel?
I know, it feels great.
Speaking of songs, we've got a tremendous song of yours. I don't know quite who I should attribute authorship to, but it's sung in German. Let's have a look at it now. I think people will bring back many, many memories.
Fällt die Bäume, hüpft und springt, singt Blumen in die Vase. Schlüpft in Frauenkleider und schlüpft sich in die Vase.
Yes. Anything in translation?
Well, I think it does lose a bit, yes, in translation. It was a weird thing that this guy from Germany said, will you come and do a show in German? In Germany, we said, yes, fine. And then we sort of got there and they started translating into German. And eventually we suddenly realised we were going to actually do it in German. And we sort of, the very first thing we had to do was Mike Palin had to be an Australian with a sort of corks around his hat talking about kangaroos' bottoms in German. None of us spoke German. It was a very weird experience.
And how did it play? Did you get asked back to come and do some more, or did they think one was enough?
Well, yeah, they did ask us to go back and do one more, but they said, don't do it in German this time. Do it in English, and we'll take care of the German. So that's what
now, look, you're like a lot of fit men. You like dressing up in a frock. Obviously, you've...
Well, it's not quite true, actually. I don't actually like it, necessarily.
Well, you do it, what, against your better judgment?
Well, yeah, I suppose that's right.
Now,
Because nobody else would, basically.
Right. Now, all the characters tended to look like your mum. When
This is absolutely true,
Does that tell you anything?
Well, I think it brings out, it means I'm in touch with my feminine side, I think, actually, yes.
Look, you know, have you ever tried the frock away from the professional entertainment coalface?
I always keep it on, I never take it off, not in front of the camera.
I was just wondering, when you were researching the film, I think it's called Personal Services, about Cynthia Payne in Streatham. Did you ever think, well, bloody hell, there are some people who look like blokes in frocks.
Well, I'll tell you what there was. We went along to, Cynthia held a couple of parties, so we could get an idea what it was like, you see.
Yes.
And we went along, and there was one or two very strange-looking ladies there. And it turned out, later I saw one of them at the court case, because I went and gave testimony for Cynthia Payne. And it turned out he was a policeman in plain clothes.
Right.
Dressed in a skirt.
Where did he look more attractive, in the frock at Cynthia's place or in the court in the professional clubber?
I think in the professional, yes, I think so. It still looks like my mum. Actually, the only time I played a halfway decent looking girl was in The Meaning of Life, and I had I had eyelashes on and a sort of silky frock, and it was very odd because I was directing the film, and I'd be sort of standing around the back, and I'd suddenly feel one of the lighting men feeling up my bottom, you know. I think he got carried away. I don't think he quite realised it was an act.
Just two things vis-a-vis Monty Python. The first one is that it seems to me that you solved an enormous problem for comedy by getting rid of the punchline. Once you get rid of punchlines, it means you don't really have to write jokes, so you can just butt anything together, and a sort of synergy happens.
We filched it. We filched it. It was Spike Milligan did it first, I have to say, Roy. We were sort of trying to think about the shape of the show when we were trying to work it out how it was going to be. And I saw Spike Milligan's Q5, and he was doing these sketches with no beginning or end and everything. I thought, bloody hell, he's done it. Yes. He's done it. He's actually sort of exploded all these cliches that we were writing in, you know.
Yes.
And,
well, so that's right. But the other working method, I suppose, I'm interested in, for example, in The Meaning of Life, to which you referred, I believe Mr. Creosote was your idea, yes. But it didn't go over too well with the team. Initially.
Well, yes, we'd written this sketch. I'd started off writing, I got a blank sheet of paper, I wrote a sketch in the worst possible taste. Yes. And then big fat man comes into the restaurant and MD says, how you feeling? Better get a bucket. And from then on it was going to be quite clear he was going to throw up for the rest of the sketch. So we anyway read this sketch out to the team, and Nobody liked it. Nobody thought it was funny. And then so it went to the bottom of the pile.
Yes.
And then about a month later, John Cleese rang up and said, hello, little Plum. I'll tell you something, bring a smile to your little face. You know that Mr. Creosote sketch? I think it'd be jolly funny. And, of course, what he'd realised was that the waiter was the funniest part in the sketch. So he actually wrote the thing about the chocolate, the wafer-thin chocolate. And
which, in a way, was a punchline.
When we first showed that sketch,
yeah.
The first person to ever see it was our musical director. And he came, and I'd just seen it, the editor had just put it together. The musical director came into the cutting room, and I said, here, come and have a look at this. And what do you think? And he saw this guy's throwing up, and he explodes eventually, and everybody's covered in the vomit. It was actually Russian salad, actually, 80 gallons we had. Anyway, and the musical director looked at this sketch. He turned very pale, went outside and was sick outside the cutting room. And we thought, my God, is it going to happen to everybody? Well, we'll probably have to live air sickness bags or something in the cinema. But it was all right. He had a hangover.
He had a hangover.
Yeah.
Well, so there's that and the Crusades and Chaucer, which we can just put to one side, in the past.
Right.
And talking of the future, you're interested in doing a program, I think, called Ancient Inventions.
Yes, Ancient Inventions. It's just come out in the States, actually. It's for Discovery Channel. It's about 3 one-hour shows.
Yeah.
And it's based on the idea that the archaeological evidence is that the human's brain, the skull, is the same size 60,000 years ago as it is now.
Yes.
So the evidence is that we're just as we're no cleverer than people in the past, just because we've got digital watches and all that kind of thing.
Yes.
So we're kind of looking at the past and looking at inventions in sort of ancient times with a sort of kinder eye.
Yeah, but what could they be?
Well, there was one, wasn't there an Arabian battery 3,000 years ago?
There was a very old one, actually. There was also the first contraceptives, actually, were ancient Egypt, 4000 BC.
Pig intestines?
Well, they did that, yes, they did that for the gents. They also, for the ladies, they had wads of crocodile dung, which they used as a pessary. And somehow it stopped them getting pregnant. I think probably put the gents off, probably. But you know, sorry,
just getting back to the battery for a moment.
Oh, the battery.
What did they power up? What did they use the electricity for?
Oh, well, they used it for the steam engine, of course. They invented the steam engine. Of course. But actually, they did invent the steam engine. Actually, Heron invented the steam engine. And the story is, we're not sure whether it's true, he took it to the emperor, and the emperor said, oh, my God, Heron, when he realised what it meant having a steam engine, he said, forget it, because what are we going to do with the slaves, you know?
Yes.
And, the whole point is that, you know, an invention has to have its right moment. Actually, some of the inventions that came out were for totally different things. For example, the first mechanical clock was not invented to tell the time. It was invented to regulate the sex life of the Emperor of China.
How did that work?
Well, you see, what happened was that the heir to the throne was chosen not according to when he was born, but when he was conceived, you see. And now, the emperor had 108 wives. So it's terribly important to know which wife he was in bed with, at what time, and what he was doing to her at what moment, because that was that.
Are there records of what the bloke got up to when he was on the job? Are they written down as well?
Did he ring a bell upon ejaculation?
Well, I think...
And the calibrator with the clock would...
I think that was it. I think,
get the text to colour out and mark it up.
Were you faking it, Your Majesty? I mean, it's interesting, isn't it? Like, in those days, you know, people were celebrating their leaders on the job, as opposed to Mr. Clinton, where they seem to think it's such a total idea.
Going back to Monty Python for a minute, who could join Monty Python if you had to cast it again?
Yeah.
Are there any public figures?
Public figures?
Well, you know, people who know. Obviously, John Smith would be fabulous, but no one knows who he is. The unknown Python.
You can play Graham's parts now. But
I know there's a bit of a battle to get the thing back together every so often, and it always falls over.
Absolutely.
Musical differences, I understand. But you know, if somebody came up, say Anglia Television came up and said, or Channel 5 came up and said, we'd love to do it. Anglia, we'd love to do it. You know, just recast it. You know, no one will remember what Cleese looks like. Just get somebody to play the part.
Absolutely.
Who could you put in?
Well, of course, a lot of good comedians, like Steve Coogan's great.
Yes, he's good.
But he's not as good as Tony Blair, though, is he?
No. Or as good as Ron Davis.
Ron Davis.
Now, speaking of John Cleese, his Sainsbury ads...
First Welshman to be celebrated for having his car stolen.
Well, that's right. This Sainsbury ads are very disappointing, don't you think?
I only just caught one. I just saw it in a pub,
I think there is only one. It seems very disappointing.
Really?
I mean,
yeah, somebody else told me he didn't like it.
What did you do?
I haven't, because I'm trying to get John for something else. So
yes.
You've got to be careful about these things.
Right.
Just say.
How do you feel about Sainsbury's? I mean, Sainsbury's is one of the great enemies of the corner shop.
Well, it is, you see, where we live in London, we've got this gigantic, it's just ginormous. It's the biggest Sainsbury's in the world. In the world.
Yes.
Check it out. And of course, what happens is then all the little butchers. We now don't have a local butchers. We don't. And all the shops are closing down right left and centre down in Lordship Lane.
And I blame John Cleese.
Well, it's partly his fault. I mean, if he wasn't there doing his bit for Sainsbury's, where would they be? Who would be buying their things?
Yes, no one.
Now look, seriously, has anybody here ever bought something from Sainsbury's because they saw John Cleese advertising Sainsbury's? No. Oh dear, John, I'm sorry about this.
Terry, you could bang on about the meaning of life and probably will over a couple of dessert wines upstairs in the Brian Bar.
Oh, I thought you'd never mention it.
Once we check the tape. But for now, Planeteers, can you let yourself go with hands and glands as a way of thanking Terry Jones?
You send your man on your band. You might have even seen him in a morning. We know deep down in our